Well, hello and welcome. There's a wise old saying, and I'll tweak it a little bit for our show, but when they came for the Iraqis, we said we are not Iraqis, so we did not speak up. Then they came for Syria, again, we did not speak up. They came for Libya, and we did nothing. Today they are coming for the French, and we are still not doing anything. Should we sit down and say, well, this is Ghana, we are too far away from all these problems, or this is a reality that one day could hit home? Being that we are part of a global village, should we just empathize with them? Or is this a real threat to global, where we are part of this global threat? Now, last Friday, the French have deemed it the Bloody Friday, where a group of ISIS men stormed some pubs, a concert and a stadium, and simultaneously shot people and bombed people. 126 people lost their lives. I mean, it's one of those things that, moments that literally stop the world. It will go down in our history. So far as this world will ever stay, that day can never be forgotten. But, I mean, are religious differences that different that triggers one party to be so angry and inflict this damage on another? Then again, you think that people from the Western world are a bit more well-read and can read between the lines and accept the differences with which this world is beautified, our differences. But it's not so. Young men will flee from their comfort of the likes of UK, smuggle themselves into an ISIS fighting ground and go and fight for what they believe in. Somehow, secretly, I admire their passion for young computer age, young people to have so much passion. Only that where it is channeled, it's surprisingly and very, very sad. If only that energy and that passion was to save humanity. With me in the studio to discuss this, to find out if this thing could hit home. Indeed, how did it start and can it ever be stopped? Two thespians. My name is Nana Sakwa. This is PM Express, but the people who know about this issue, to my very left is Dr. Vladimir Enchidanso, Senior Research Fellow at Legon and International News and International Issues Expert. And then I have, well, Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And then I have Wing Commander Patrick Sobojo, retired, who's also a security analyst. Indeed, he's helped us on the show via phone, but today he's made it into the studio. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we are looking at war on terror. Is it closer to home, or we should just forget about it? Well, thank you very much for staying, and then you're welcome back. But the number to join the show with is 056 0560 800 000. It's a very good number. It's 0560 800 000. So you can join the show via WhatsApp, and as your messages come in, I will get it and I would read it out for you so that you can share. And let me start with you, Doctor. Just a brief history of how ISIS came about. I know it's a long story, but if you can just summarize to bring the viewers just to what we're going to talk about today. How did ISIS come about? Because once upon a time it was all Al-Qaeda. Now you don't even hear of Al-Qaeda.
Right. Well, and I thank you very much, but let me break protocol a little. And
Sure.
I heard everybody congratulating you. Can I take this opportunity to also congratulate you?
By all means.
Your new status, and welcome to the club.
You see now, I'm mental.
Well, yes, our viewers should be educated on this problem of ISIS. Many think that they just came out of the blues. That's not correct. Terrorism has been with us since ages, but this kind of terrorism is cellular-based. I mean, cells, not kind of episcopal or hierarchical, in the sense that it's not like Al-Qaeda because of the way they came. In the Middle East, we have a complex of Sunni-Shiite divide. Unfortunately, for a long time, most governments in the Middle East have been Sunni minorities. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, even Iraq and things like that. And America has mostly, or the West has mostly supported these minorities, including Saddam Hussein. And so a point came when regime change kind of thing, philosophy of the Bush doctrine came in. So Bush, according to the Bush doctrine, he would want to spread liberalism in especially Iraq, for Iraq to be a beacon for democracies all over the world. And this is also because of the end of the Cold War. When the Cold War ended, many American professors had written about this is American time, you know, end of history. There's no other ideology to be able to spring up and that kind of thing. So let's civilize the world. And if you watch Obama's speech quite recently also, he was talking about civilization of the other part of the world. And so the trigger point was when the coalition went to Iraq and had a regime change and a vacuum was created. The Shiites were unable to come to power immediately, even though Maliki is a Shiite, and the Sunnis felt that they had been done in. That's number one. Then you come to a point where the Arab Spring started again, and then we're able to go to Libya to do the same thing. Regime change, and therefore we expect democracy. If you watched out, around that time, the mainstream journalism was about pro-democracy forces trying to come into being in the Middle East. So they were pro-democracy. In fact, America gave $60 million to anti-Assad elements in London. They said it was not enough. He promised them $100 billion. So it's like we were supporting rebels to overthrow their governments. Now, in Assad case in Syria, they were unable to overthrow the government, and there has been a stalemate for more than 4 years. In Libya, we overthrew Gaddafi, and that's, the situation is said that we don't have a Libya anymore. In the midst of this rancorous situation, the forces that were trying to overthrow their governments were unable to do so. And therefore, ISIS came in and promised the Islamic world that they were going to create a caliphate. A caliphate is a kind of, call it a country or a world in which there is only one caliph, like the Pope. And it came into being some time back when the Prophet died. After the Prophet, they had a caliphate. And so selling such an ideology or idea to believers, no matter how wrong it is. So in the ashes of the vacuum created in Syria, Libya, and Iraq, ISIS came, wanting to create a caliphate that runs from Iraq to the Levant, that's Lebanon. It's a huge thing. It's 10 times more than Europe and things like that. So this is how ISIS came. ISIS came out of a vacuum because there's no governance. There's no governance within the area. And people, I mean, there can't be a vacuum in philosophy, as we say. Yeah. So they step in, and that is how ISIS came.
Winkamana, let me come to you. The age of ISIS is particularly very, very young. And where from that passion? Because, I mean, Al-Qaeda, you know, 30s, 40s, anytime you saw them, you know, men with big beard and gray. But these are children who, you know, have an iPad, run away from home and leave a little note. And so what's the new trend and why is the age dropping?
Well, thank you. You said a lot. You're taking that meat out of my mouth. But times have changed. And if you look at those who profess either to be deemed as terrorists or belong to ISIS are not coming from poor homes. They're educated. They looked at how Muslim world or Islam is being treated, from the invasion of Iraq or a bit of in Afghanistan, then to destabilize Syria. There are two-pronged things. One, to destabilize Syria to become a weakened state that Israel at any time wanted to attack Iran could just overrun Syria. One of the reasons the American went in. You know, so the vacuum created when the Sunnis were disturbed. And these are elite children who see their kinsfolk. I mean, for example, you send a bomber to go and bomb a particular, you know, target. And a fraction of a second, he makes a mistake. He's killing innocent people. And they get incensed. And this is where the trouble is. They get incensed. And if you look at the quality of young men they have, they are not only from the Arabic areas. You have people joining them from United States, from UK, from elsewhere. New Zealand. Because they have that Islamic faith in them. And they see it as more or less like some form of a holy war. But this could have been restricted just between Iraq, Syria, and Iran, where they were declaring the caliphate. So one wonders, why are they pushing them? Because now we have Iraq, which is a semi-failed state. Syria has become a failed state. Libya, don't mention. So what have they achieved by continuing to push them? It's not a question of being anti-American, but this is the truth. They are rising up, and I think the danger is getting the semi-educated Islam like Indonesia, Philippines, and the rest to join this fight. We are in serious trouble. We'll be in serious trouble.
The world leaders, you see, and I'm sure I've heard Doc, said quite a few times about the rate at which superpowers will just march into any country and think that, well, you should use our style of governance. I don't know if there's any country that we can say, well, maybe country A, country B, we did it and it worked, and therefore the rest of you emulating. I don't know if there's any other story like that.
No, absolutely. That is why at times we don't understand what is happening. Today, in Obama's press conference, a journalist just put a question and he was dodging the question. He said, is it not time for us to have introspection? We've been failing everywhere. But let me tell you, put it right there. What we are having, Huntington predicted it in 1997. He was attacked, and then he came out with a book in 2000. The book is simple. The Clash of Civilizations. That's the title of the book. And he was predicting that the end of the Cold War will make America swollen-headed, and the West swollen-headed, thinking that now they can civilize the whole world with their liberal democracy. That will bring about a clash, two clashes. The first clash will be from the have-nots, the downtrodden in the South, economic. And the other one will be ideological. That is, when you want to force your liberal democracies on countries whose socio-cultural upbringing cannot receive such a thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what we are having now. As my brother said, look, the young ones are educated and they feel that their traditions, their culture, their way of life is being trampled upon by Western kind of liberal democracy. And therefore they are being alienated. Even where you have Europe, and there are a lot of Muslims in Europe, between 20 and 30 million in the whole of Europe. In France alone, about 6 million. They are not being accepted. Multiculturalism has not worked in Europe. There is Islamophobic kind of attacks on them. From January to this time, there have been 60 attacks in France alone. So it's like people are getting alienated and feeling that, why aren't you accepting me? And therefore they're using Islam, not because that is what Islam says, but that is one of the tools in the tools box for the fight. Mm-hmm. So the point is this, that it's not a question that some people were born to be terrorists, but the situation has created terrorism. Number two, the war on terror is being fought on lines or on ideological lines also. It's not the UN which is leading the war. It is not a coalition of world, including Muslim world, which is leading the war. But they can see the West systematically wanting to crush Islam, which may not be true, but that's the impression. And so, look, Nana, we're going to go a long way. The war and terror is not being fought on correct lines. We are being parochial, ethnocentric, and not logical in our attack on the terror. And so the terrorists are also using all modern gadgets to wit, innovations in science and technology at their advantage. If you look at how Osama bin Laden was able to seize 4 American planes at the same time, only an genuine mind, can do that. And use American planes as missiles to attack America. Charlie Hebdo, the recent one on which we are talking mm-hmm. about, mm-hmm. How did it happen? They're using what they can use within. And that's what is going to happen. Worse is the situation where we have large swaths of people moving into Europe because they have been uprooted from their roots in Syria and Afghanistan and several other places. Now going to Europe. Europe is accepting them. I predicted some time back, about 3-4 weeks ago, in my column in the Times, that this thing was going to happen. I think I'm a prophet. This thing I said was going to happen, and it will happen more, because most of the Islamists will join the race for emigration. That's number one. 2, they will never forget that they are Islam. 3, they will have some of their roots members inside Europe already, like what has happened. A Belgian national who is an Islamist, was used as the conduit. And finally, because of the use of modern gadgets like the telephone and whatnots and WhatsApps and whatnots, they will now have most of their cells within Europe. So Europe is in big trouble.
But, Commander, why not Germany? Why not Austria? France seems to be a particular target. Why not the, Sweden and Switzerland?
If you watch carefully in geopolitics, France had most probably sought even to overplay UK. It become like a bastion of American, external forces. And France will bear the brunt. Like you said, about 60 attacks so far. And then in Europe, France has more treated Islam more than any other country. They have, if you look at what happened after Second World War, Islamists, not Islamists, but those who moved from Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, and were accepted. They were part of the French army. And the way they were treated, they mean second-class citizens, not even a third rate. So this anguish they have. And suddenly this comes, which is now all being played by illiterates and those maybe, or from morning, trying to get some milk from the goat. They've gone to colleges. And they are cells. But what beats me is that when America invaded Iraq, and as a result, arrested a lot of Islamists, I don't want to use that word, but those who belong to the Islam faith, and took them to Guantanamo. Some were sent to other countries. And some spent 10, 15 years before their cases were held, and then later on released. Don't we think they have families that were planning cells? And most of these leaders of al-Baghdadi, they call him, they were all in cells in Iraq. They were meeting in the evenings and were planning. This thing didn't come, much as has been said, it's also due to the faith between the Sunni and the Arawites and then the Shiites. But they had opportunity, for the war was on the Sunnis. And they were in cells all over the world, and they were planning cells. So currently, I believe they have cells all over. The other countries in Europe, we didn't hear of them. We didn't hear of Netherlands attacking them either on the press or anything until maybe something happens. We didn't hear Denmark doing it. We didn't hear Italy doing it. It's in France, in Europe, and UK on Ireland. UK is a bit safer because it's an island. It's difficult to penetrate. America is far off. They can't target them now. By all means, they're going to go there. It's not I'm saying this to support what happened. Yeah. By the sentiments which has come up and the feeling of those within the area, how they have been treated.
Just a quick one to that. The writings on why France indicate that France has not been able to deal with, we still use the word Islamism, or, the Islamic citizens who were uprooted from their roots since the Algerian Civil War, 1960s. And thereafter, in 1995, was the headquarters of Islamic revolutions in France. And assimilating these people into French society has been a bigger problem than, say, in Britain. Exactly. The problem with the hijab. They made a law that said, don't advertise your religion. And they felt that it's all towards them. So France has had a long problem of assimilating or getting these people into the society as multiculturalism would have demanded. And look at even this immigration. I mean, Germany has been a little softer and that kind of thing. So France has that typical problem. And most of the attacks on people with Islamic origin also has not helped France.
Doc,
let alone a party.
Let me divert a little and come back on the same lines. But you see, France's argument was that Muslims within France did not want to adapt any of that French culture, but then they wanted the French culture to adapt. So it was that clash where, well, I don't want to eat pork, I don't want to do this, I want to, but you have to accept mine. So that was that conflict.
What was the difficulty?
Difficulty. Yes.
What was difficult? He doesn't eat pork. He doesn't eat pork. He bows 5 times a day. He bows 5 times a day, but he's a Frenchman.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing. You don't have to force him to become
exactly.
a blue-eyed Frenchman or vice versa. Why can't they also accept them in a status quo? Why do you want to convert them into this? So I believe France most probably is called for the music and they are paying for the tune.
Exactly. If you watch out how most of them were uprooted from New Caledonia in the 60s, 62 exactly. And they were protesting. If the war is over, we want to go back. And like my brother said, most of them had fought for the French Legion. They come to France and they are second citizens. So they've never accepted being French more than being Algerian, for example. They've never accepted being European than being Arab. So these are the problems. And today, look at the young guys, 17, 18, 20, Charlie Hebdo. What do they know? But it has been handed down from generation to generation. And the feeling is still there. And there are some things they can't accept. However, it is painful that when it comes to legal issues and rights, they can use the European standards. When it comes to ideology and culture, let me have my culture. That is the
I'm going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll look at, is Africa, insulated from all these problems? Should we just sit and watch? Or is this things that could, come down here? Stay tuned. Well, thank you very much for staying. And we're looking at last Friday's Bloody Friday, which France experienced a series of terrorist attacks from the ISIS group. But here we are in Ghana discussing it. Should we even bother discussing it? Is it not too far away from us? Indeed, aren't we too hungry? We're not ready to go and bomb anybody. Doc, let me start with you. Should we be concerned or just talk about it as international relation here, Kebi? Oh, this is a reality.
It is a reality. We don't have to delude ourselves into thinking that this thing is far away, it's in France, it's here and whatnot. International relations is such today that even the behavior of a government, the behavior of nationals, if you think it's far away, let me give you an example. When one player, a Ghanaian player, during the 2006 World Cup, in ecstasy, just showed the Israeli flag because he was playing in Israel. The anger of the non-Israeli and especially Muslim countries in Ghana was so high that our foreign minister then, Nana Akufo-Addo, had to call them and apologize. So whatever is happening elsewhere, we need to be very careful. Even those of us over here, you see that we are very cautious about the words we're using and telling Americans, no, we are not attacking you. Telling the Islam people, we have to say it as it is. All these things show that whatever we do, that's number one. Number two, for the terrorists, the whole world is the theater. The war front is the whole world. Number three, every tool is needed to fight their own war. So if it is Ghana, which is a peaceful country to them, where they can channel some of their monies or whatnot, they can come and even build up a whole good ferry factory over here. It's an ordinary factory. But through which they are channeling or using the profits to buy guns and whatnot. Nobody's immune from terrorist activities. And so we shouldn't think that it is far away. Finally, if you think it's far away, check how your own nationals, Ghanaian nationals, are bought into their ideology and they are leaving to go and fight ISIS. A well-educated person like a graduate of the KNUST has been reported to have left the country, and I'm told that they have a cell in Ghana. That should tell you that we are not far off. So what we need, actually, is to be security conscious. And in this country, we are very lax where security is concerned, ordinary security, because our security is more regime security than national security. If we are not security conscious, and the ordinary people on the streets and that sort of thing, we have not been told what security is. And security is in the hands of a certain club whose concern is the national regime. We are in trouble. But elsewhere, Israel, in most of these countries, any little small boy who sees a little thing untoward just reports to the security agencies. In Ghana, people pass by without recognizing that something is a security threat. We were here when Sudanese refugees walked all the way to the circle before we saw their behavior, hungry and emaciated, before somebody reported to the police. I mean, there's not to tell us that we should do something. So, security consciousness. Then the intelligence community must share information. Unfortunately, I think over here, many people just protect their turf. And we should know that the Belgian security got information, told the French people about the possibility of this. They didn't act. So was it how Al-Qaeda struck America. It was the same thing. So personally, I'm saying we are not far away. We are part of the global village, and they can use us. They can use you, Nana, without you knowing. They can set up anything. You work there, and yours is to just pass papers. But they are using you. So we are not far away. We need to just be security conscious and learn. Some of these programs are good for the general public to understand what is happening in the world.
Commander, I was going to ask are we not overstretching the reality of it, getting to this side of the world? But before then, I have a text message that says that is your panelist trying to justify terrorism by the way France treated Islam?
No, I don't think we sought to do that. We're trying to give reasons why maybe it was possible to happen. I mean, violence anywhere is violence, and we abhor it. No one is here to support what it did.
Absolutely.
But we give reasons why it was possible for this to happen.
What doctor said, I mean, ISIS coming into Ghana, I mean, would they? I mean, is this a good territory? Aren't we far off? Can't get money to
already. I will look at it from an angle altogether. It becomes ripe when the situation is ripe. If you look at our conference in West Coast Africa, we are the only country, the Christian majority. They all have the Muslims and majority. Somebody or someone would like to rock the boat. I know there have been pressure some time ago to let us join the Islamic fraternity, but I think it couldn't come on. From that angle, yes, one can be trained to come and start trouble. Now, recently, if you remember, what do you call their headgear?
The hijab.
It started from Takoradi and it started brewing up. But fortunately for us in Ghana, it looks like from time memorial, we have not subjected that faith to any level. It's been almost an equal platform. So it will be difficult for the Islam here to accept that kind of, what do you want to change in Ghana? Vis-a-vis Christianity, animist, or Islam? What do you want to change? It doesn't exist. But if you take our neighbors, let's say Nigeria is a prime target because of what is happening in Boko Haram. And I'm sure Nigeria will be the last country to offer France some form of sympathy. Because every step they take, they should be careful. If you take Chad and Niamey is not in Chad, Mali, they had their own problems, but they are purely Islamic states. So the possibility of this descending from the Islamic countries, don't forget they are bordered by Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Egypt. It's possible. But for it to thrive here, I'm not saying it is not possible, but our social values here will make it a bit difficult.
How did Ghana do it? Because, I mean, you could work with somebody and you don't even know that they're Muslim or Christian.
Right. Doc said something. In this country, I don't even have a national security. Some of us have been operatives before. National security should be sidelined from politics. Currently, I can boldly say that national security is in the job of CID. Criminal Investigation Department, and aligned to one political party. You don't run it that way. National security, you need information, dissemination, collation, and form a policy out of that one. But the way systems run here, I doubt if a typical, I wouldn't say a politician belongs to another party, and since anything inimical to the state would like to go to national security to go and report. We have to, protect them from this issue. Until we do it, you can't. You can start getting information from chop bar, pounding fufu, taxi drivers. We did it some years ago in this country. You know, they bring the information, what is happening this week, they will tell you. Then the experts will come in, put them together, and plan for the next 2 or 3 months. And that become politics. How do you operate? I'm sorry, I'm not attacking them, but this is the truth. So until we can make the national security operate in the better terms, the possibility of people sneaking through is possible.
Yes, Nana, quickly, a very quick one. See, my saying that we are all vulnerable didn't mean I think they can come here and cause that kind of mess. I'm saying they can operate from our soil without our knowing. And that can create problems for us security-wise.
What I wanted to find out is, because even in the UK, with all their civilization, France and everything, the level of cohabitation with Christians and Muslims here, I don't know, where did we get it from? Because, I mean, we don't care. We don't care whether somebody is a Muslim or Christian.
Let's make it straight. A lot of mainstream Muslims abhor what is going on because it's un-Islamic. When I'm teaching conflict, I quote a lot from the Quran. The Quran abhors just killing innocent people. There are several verses in the Quran. I quote them, I use them in my slides to show especially the use of force. It's very interesting what the Quran talks about the use of force. When someone is not in combat position, there's no point killing the person. When someone, I mean, it's killing innocent people. But look at what Abu Muhammad al-Adnani says. If you kill an American or European infidel, kill them properly, especially spiteful, in a spiteful way. And watch out, kill the French in any way possible. It's un-Islamic. So mainstream Islam abhors this kind of horrible thing. In Ghana, we have the main Islam people here who either belong to Al-Sunni or Tijaniya. You know, they have the divide here. But they are not even fighting between themselves, let alone fight Christians. So we have lived together for quite a long time. That's next thing is
same opportunity.
Same opportunity.
But why and how did it happen?
It happened because of the national politics we started with. Up to until Rawlings' time, when even the Muslims didn't have national holidays, we equated everything, leveraged everything. They have their 2 holidays. Like Christians have Easter and Christmas, and we live during Christmas. Muslims celebrate with us. During Ramadan,
we do.
the Eid, we celebrate with them. We have a kind of multicultural kind of living in Ghana. And I don't think, like my brother has said, we'll have that kind of Islamic group or Christian group trying to cause it. What we have in Ghana is a completely different game. We have pockets of subnational groups belonging to cliques, like political parties rather. The Azoka boys and the Bamba boys. This is what we'll be contending with.
Yes. And also our common enemy pre-independence was the British. We wanted them out.
Yes.
And from the north, south, east of Gold Coast and to Ghana, everybody fought the same fight.
Right.
We wanted them out. We had independence. We had it. And all equal opportunities.
Exactly.
Those they thought they didn't have it, free education and elsewhere, they came into the stream. And there haven't been any divide between us and them.
Absolutely.
So I find it very difficult, if possible, for them to penetrate now, unless something else happens.
Look at our cultural values even.
Intermarriages
at independence, intermarriages and everything. At independence, Osajifu and the top people over there were wearing fugu. It's another small.
They can't stand that. Standard political dressing.
If France cannot stand the kind of Muslim dressing, in Ghana, right at independence, the fugu became a symbol of political, before independence. Can you imagine? So over here, and look at it. It's only in Ghana that we have a historically cultural festival turned into an Islamic festival. Up north, what do you call that festival?
The Fast Festival.
No,
the
Damba. I think Damba also. The celebration of the birth of Muhammad. It's a special festival for our local people, Ghanaians, or people of that region, all up to Burkina. And then it was turned by one king, into a festival to commemorate the birth of Muhammad. So you see, you know, culturally and whatnot, we are living together. I'm not expecting Islamism to fester here. No. I'm not expecting jihadism to fester here, absolutely. What I'm expecting is that some extremist jihadists will join ISIS by the message, the way ISIS does the things. There is a book called ISIS. I wish it's plenty on the market over here. You read and you really understand why it's festering. It's written by Jessica Stern. It's quite a fat book. ISIS, that's the title of the book.
Commander, will they succeed?
I also believe those who are running to go and join it are looking at job, like jobs for money. But they forgot they are going to battlefront. There you don't drink tea and say we shall overcome. They'll shoot you in the belly.
Exactly.
So once they go and see the happenings on the battlefront, I don't think they encourage their colleagues to come.
It's an ideological battle. As for that, encouraging people to come, let me show you one thing. Quite recently, Al-Shabaab did something, and Al-Qaeda also tricked people from Kenya. There was an advert in the papers talking about jobs in the Middle East, that you go onto a rig and one day you get $500 and that kind of thing. So people who were recruited into it, they found themselves within ISIS camp, Al-Shabaab camps and things like that. I have of late been seeing some of these adverts in our papers, asking people to apply for jobs in the Middle East. And I'm alarmed because there is evidence of such people being transported to the battlefront. And there's no turning back.
But is it achievable, this fight? I mean, is it not?
Within the Middle East, yes. Because the war they are fighting is totally different from maybe...
Cross borders, though. I mean, these two,
And what is that across borders?
The fight, I mean, you're trying to bits of Syria, bits of Iraq, bits of...
Yeah, but that is the ISIS.
That's the ISIS.
ISIS started from Syria and in bodies Iraq.
They want all the way to
that
Lebanon.
is that way. The caliphate they're trying to...
No, but see, if it was just one country, I can imagine...
I see your point because they're all not Sunnis.
It's like getting Ghana, bit of Togo, bit of Ivory Coast, bit of Burkina Faso.
If we all believe in the same religion, then that was possible.
And such wars have no boundaries. Who says they are respecting borders? They are attacking economic elements. They've taken Mosul, where they have all this oil and whatnot. They attack barracks from all corners, get ammunition, and that's what they want. And they attack the Kurds, the Yazidis, and move.
Who's funding and what do they get? Because it's expensive.
Our own territory here. Let's take the Ashantis. In the Ukuma Pembeba. You think they all left Kumasi to go and fight in Togo? That's our system. If you provoke them, whatever, they'll find some Ashanti enclave and send them to go there. And the main support will come. So you can liken that to this ISIS issue, which is within the borders of Syria, Iraq, and there may be a bit of Afghanistan.
Let's look at funding, because this must cost fortunes. This must cost fortunes.
Yes. They have money. Don't forget, once they strike a town, what they see is economic values like oil fields. There's a lot of black marketeering, oil, black oil. They have money. They have money. They have money.
Jessica
and without the money, they can't buy the weapons.
Absolutely.
Much as some of the weapons are those American trained and left them behind for them. When they see them, they run away and leave all these modern gadgets for the ISIS. That's what they are using. Others they buy them from. You can buy an AK rifle, which was original from Russia. You can buy that in maybe in Chile, which is manufactured all over the place. A shipload is coming containing record grenades and this and that. The only they haven't had is air power. But that's difficult to maintain. But they have the money.
ISIS, according to Jessica Stern, is the most resourced organization in the world.
They have money.
And mind you, they are being funded by even people from Saudi Arabia.
Who don't like the system.
Who don't like the system. People are transferring monies. And today, because of globalization, you don't need to go to a bank and beg them to transfer some money.
Is their success a threat to anyone?
Absolutely, a big threat.
Well, Saudi Arabia should be careful.
Saudi Arabia, the whole of Europe, if they succeed. And that is why Saudi Arabia is saying those who live to fight. And again, let's go back. When the attack was on Syria, pro-democracy forces, people were being allowed to leave to go and fight. We saw on television how they were being shown how they crossed the Turkish border and that Turkey was giving them chance to go in. It is when some of them returned and were causing trouble that they said, if you...
Turkey itself.
Exactly, Turkey itself. So at that time, yes, Assad was the enemy. Anybody who wants to go, please go. Now, they turned the scales and then it turned into ISIS, no longer just anti-Assad groups, whom some countries had dropped weapons left, right, center, cache of ammunition and that sort of thing, which have been seized by this ISIS. So the point is this, that yes, they are well-resourced. They seize the economic enclaves, and again, they are being funded by some sheikhs and big Arab who don't like the system, who wish they were a caliphate.
Let me take a break here and let's see how does the Russian element play in all this? Because all of a sudden, Russia seems to be in there and really doing some big bombing. What's their interest? Don't move. Yes. War and terror, and that's what we are looking at. Should we be concerned, those of us here in Ghana, Africa as large, since, it seems to be happening more in the European world? Russia has now, taken it upon itself to attack ISIS. Commander, what's the Russian angle? Why are they so suddenly in there and involved?
Well, you can take this from when the Russian conclave was more or less broken down, and Russia became, I won't say a superpower, but more or less like a second fiddle to the Western world. They've been developing the arsenal. It may be crude, but they are effective. The chance came, and Russia would have intervened in Libya, but the territory was much wider. And for some time, they had wanted to prove themselves to the rest of the world that Russia is still Russia. They went on ground, and they have their staff there, forward air controllers. I'm not having heard of any Russian bombing which has gone wrong, like the Western countries, either by United States, France, or Britain. And they are doing precision work. And someone I go by, I felt if Russia had intervened early, ISIS would have gone how far they went. And you can't win the war without boots on the ground. America does not want to, but even Obama won't be allowed to commit troops after the experience in Iraq. France wouldn't go. UK wouldn't go. So how are you going to win the war? Except people who are within them, like forward air controllers who can tell exactly where to go and do the job. And since they got now about a month ago, they've curtailed ISIS movements a lot. And I'm sure after downing their airplane in Egypt, they are going to step up. France went in last night with some kind of flare, but nobody knows the result. So Russia wants to show its might now, that we are no longer a second-class citizen. And Putin is getting a lot of support because Russia feels like we are back on the street. So it might be difficult. I'm who thought Russia would have invited today's talk in Geneva now with Iran arrest. They say they have the punch. So I believe that's what Russia wanted to achieve, and they have achieved it. And they'll maintain it.
France's attack, would you say is impulsive or scheduled, or is a revenge bombing to please whom? What?
I think it's a form of revenge.
Revenge reaction.
Revenge. They've attacked the Russians. They brought their airplane down. They attacked France. Belgium doesn't have air power or any airplanes in there. Germany is not fighting there. No. So Germany is out. UK is. But UK being the island, from time immemorial, it's always been difficult to attack. Hitler even tried it, to attack them and get them. So maybe they're a bit isolated. But I think since they can't win the war of America, war of attrition, they will try and do something. Exactly. I'm not supporting it. I've heard what happened in France. But then, to them, it's a revenge. Yeah. And UK should be on the war path and a lookout.
Could this war be stopped without... and I heard you mention something like, the things that feed this jihadism. I mean, should you go and, tackle it from the roots rather than try to nip off the branches?
Absolutely. If you don't take away the roots, they will germinate again and form the branches. And I've always said that I think we allowed things to go on for far too long, as General Commander has said. The point is this, that the Russians didn't want to go in because at the point they didn't know how. And we still have that problem of the Cold War raising its head again. Russia had supported Assad since the time they had their port of Tartu as the port supporting Assad and supporting Russian interests and things like that. But as soon as they saw that ISIS was becoming a problem and the anti-Assad forces were no longer in any way be able to, that stalemate was such that somebody must take the deal. And Russia saw that this was a chance to take the mantle, to take the wind out of the sails of the U.S. and project itself as a world reliever or kind of, and they got that support.
Let me take a few messages from viewers. This one says, it's an interesting discussion. We need to broaden the lens in our search for a solution to this problem of terrorism. Cohabitation of Muslims and Christians in Ghana partly has to do without educational system. Formative years, we sleep, eat, study, and play together. And while we do all these, we appreciate each other's religion. And this one says, thank you for the professionalism. As a Muslim, I think the world should stop intruding in other people's affairs. I believe the West is not surprised about what is happening because they woke up a sleeping chaos. And then this one says, Dr. Dansu, you have said it all about Islam. Sometimes one wonders how the perpetrators of these acts convinced others to join them. Let's read the Quran, Bible to get the facts about the religion and not interpret the religious based on the behavior of followers. This is Umar in Gambaga. And then, Nana, I define terrorism as the use of violence to achieve a specific aim. So this shows clearly that is only the uncivilized who will go into such an act. May God help us all. From Kujo in Esikado Sekendi. In African countries, terrorism may set in as a result of selfish and greedy style of leadership. This is from Yaha in Boko. When the West stop oppression on other countries and respect the rights of others, the world would be a better place for all. This is Uncle C in Bibiani. And this one says, I don't believe in the ideological thinking of ISIS. It's inequality in the system of things that are creating the kind of extremists in the world. Fred in Pram says, I believe Dr. Enchudanso is right about Ghana's security, which is for the regime. Ghana's security is nothing to write home about. Even the government's spokesperson are fighting for foreign nationals against state. This is from Freddie. Let me get the last one here. It says, what we are doing as a country to prevent those, what are we doing as a country to prevent those terrorists from entering our country? Or we should wait for something bad to happen before we act or do something bad to come so that we pay big money to some rich men to investigate. We have to be vigilant. Sender is Mensa Bright from Keita. Doctor, these are messages there from
interesting messages.
Very interesting messages, yes. from people out there.
That's right.
Will the world ever understand that uniformity of government, the American type democracy, is not for all? Can we ever comprehend it? Because as soon as we leave school, most educated people think that then we have to have a multi-party, liberal, American-sized system, no matter where we come from.
It's rather unfortunate that the world has not come to terms with democracy being a process, not an event. Democracy is a process. American democracy has reached where it is because it was a process that was set in place up to now. British democracy is completely different from American democracy. Nobody votes for the British Prime Minister, and he has a right to go 1 million times. But that's what the Constitution says, provided he's the leader of his party and the party keeps winning, and he wins his constituency. He can go 3, 4 times. An African wants to change the Constitution and go a second time, or a third time, whatever it is, then it's hell. But have we built into our system a way where our system also is brewed in the African pot in such a way that it is a process? It is a socio-historical process. We've reached a point called our own democracy. And this is what they are not allowing, and that is why we have that clash of civilizations. They are not allowing it. They say democracy, and we quickly rush to have a constitution based on American principles. We are not Americans, based on British kind of system. We are not British. And then they force things on us, including telling you to put gay rights into your constitution.
Let me give the last word to Commander. Commander, I want the same issue. Well, I don't think I am on air now, am I? Commander, let me give you the last word with regards to this uniformity of government. I don't know what your stand is. I mean, should it be that American four-year cycle, multi-party? Is it, that's what the world needs?
You see, the camp democracy partisan by the West, United States, UK, and let's say the rest of the European countries, taking about 3, 4, 500 years to get there. Yeah. And he says it's a process, taking in consideration the cultural values of the people. It's like revolution. You know, you can't take a Cuban, when I believe in 1979, people had wanted to plan a Cuban revolution, yet it didn't work. But the social structure is different. If we have to do it taking a lot of things into consideration. So I believe that the world is in trouble because the Western world is forcing their type of democracy on people. Why right do you have to tell somebody, do it this way, do it that way? You know, and that's the reason we all go in China, because China doesn't give you any.
Should they apologize for Libya?
Why is it Libya? Libya is only failed state. I mean, if you take Iraq, Afghanistan, and then where they've gone, this is a failed state. And about a week or a few days ago, they were questioning Obama about that issue. They're all failed states. I'm looking at Iraqis saying that we wish Saddam was here. Libyans are saying that we should have had our own Gaddafi. We were doing all right. Why go and rock the boat?
Well, all too soon, that's what time would allow us, but I hope that this conversation will come back so we continue. But my viewers have been, you know, very appreciative of the way you've broken down issues for them to understand. And, you know, I think what's going down well is the fact that our security is more regime security than national security, you know. So I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Vladimir Echudansu and Wing Commander Patrick Sobojo. Thank you very much for coming. And as I always say, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.